systemic issue and a massive, massive failure.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable Minister Paula Bennett.
Mr. Speaker, the public deserves to have full confidence that government systems are robust and secure. We should all be able to trust that any personal information will not be revealed by human or systems error, and nor should that information be accessible by any unauthorised person. From what we have learned over the past 48 hours, it's clear that the Ministry of Social Development has breached that public trust. Mr. Speaker, I cannot and I will not make excuses. An independent review has been called, and that needs to be given its due process so that we have all of the facts on the table. But I want to say to this House and to the public that it is not acceptable. It is being taken very seriously by this government, by the Chief Executive, by the extended government. I have received an apology from the Chief Executive, and I certainly have passed that on to all of New Zealand as well. The members opposite are calling out. I'm not sure if everyone can kind of hear them out there, but I think that while we are going through the independent review, I will give them some of the background on kiosks themselves, how long there have been computers that have been in work and income, and the members might want to note that that goes right back to the late 1990s. So I think we better be careful as to where we jump to conclusions of where some of it has actually been set up. Mr. Speaker, there has also been a lot of misinformation, and I know that a lot of people are worried out there about what has been accessed. There's a few things that I think need to be set and balanced. Core systems were not breached, so people's individual files as such were not accessible for the public or for anyone that was accessing that system. As the member before me identified, though, a high level of personal information was accessed because of the 4 servers that were attached to the kiosks as such, or the computers there. Of those 4, 3 of them were inaccessible and they could not get access to the information, I am told to believe, but one of them they could. I also want to make it really clear that they couldn't stand in the Work and Income Office and read that information on screen. What they had to do was download it, as the blogger did, and then take it home and convert it into a readable file. So they weren't standing in a Work and Income Office as such and looking at it. So he converted it down, then had to take it and then convert it into a file that was readable, is the information that I have had to date. I just want to reiterate, because we have been getting a little bit of that kind of concern, as you can imagine, that at no stage was anyone able to go into the SWIFT or the CIRA system, which is where we run Child, Youth and Family. They are quite separate. They are password protected, so only those staff, and actually staff have different levels to the access of information within that system, for example, as well, so they weren't able to do that. Mr. Speaker, I am extremely disappointed, and I do not think that this is acceptable in any way, shape or form. I'm going to be as upfront and as transparent and put as much information out there as I can as we work our way through this process. I am happy to answer any questions as I can, while also having respect for the processes as we go through the independent review. So just bear with me, but it came to my attention on Sunday evening that the blogger had contacted a media outlet saying he'd managed to get into the Work and Income systems via the kiosks. At that point, I was told that all systems were going to be shut down so that there could be no further access to them, and so that was not possible. The first I knew of it being the actual kiosks was at 5:46 on Sunday evening. Then, as more staff worked overnight on the issue, and I was formally briefed when I got to Wellington about 10 o'clock on Monday morning. I think the department's immediate response to this situation was absolutely appropriate. They took the situation very seriously and moved swiftly to contain what is very obviously a serious security flaw. We demanded answers from the department, and we got a few, but I think not enough to satisfy the public, and certainly not enough to satisfy me. That is why the Chief Executive has called this independent inquiries, which is going to be run by Deloitte's. It's important that the investigation gets underway immediately, so they've already started. We should see the results of that within 2 weeks, but the further results of going wider into the second phase of what should be this review will take more time, and I think we need to do a scoping expedition first to then give the House a real timeline on when we'll get that back. Mr. Speaker, what did come to light last night was that there was a report that was done in April 2011, and from what I have seen of the report, it identifies this flaw in the system. What I can't get answers from, and what I'm asking the independent to review to look at, is why, how, when was it acted on? So if it wasn't acted on, why wasn't it? If it was, what's then since gone wrong to make this information yet again available? So we're looking backwards, and that will all be investigated. But when we discovered that, the Chief Executive and I wanted to put that out in a statement this morning so that we're quite clear on what we do know and what we don't know. It's been about 36 hours now, but at that stage it had only been about 24. Mr. Speaker, I want to give some information about the kiosks themselves, because I do think this is important. So what they are effectively, obviously, is a computer that people can go into. They predominantly use them to update their CVs, to write their CVs and to job search. So they access the internet, and from that they also access Microsoft Word, which is predominantly what they use to do their CVs on. Actually, computers have been available to the public through Work and Income since the late 1990s. The only difference now is that we have actually put them out throughout the offices. Technology has caught up a little bit, and they look different because they're a stand that you stand at. But actually, if you wanted to be to use that term, they've been around since the late 1990s. In those early years, technology was obviously different, but the computers were more used for typing CVs. Over time, Labor, when in government, moved them more front of house, so they were more easily accessible to the public. Beneficiaries were able to go in and search for jobs. They have been able to do that for years. Some were done in seminars. Most of them were able to go in separately. If you go to different Work and Income offices, some of them are in a room attached. Some of them are in the main body of the building, where you also go for benefit advice and income. What happened was in July 2010, the actual kiosks, which, as I say, the kiosks in themselves effectively are a stand that has the computer in it. So the computers have been there for some time. We now ran out the kiosks, which would be more front of line, which means that we were having people more self-servicing rather than using up all of the time going to case managers. They could actually access it themselves. In July 2010, they were trialled in 6 sites, and in April, the Ministry made a business case and made the decision to roll them out. They have rolled out more than 700, I think from memory, 730 have been rolled out across the country. But that just means we've replaced, in many cases, the computers that are there and have put them in the stands of the kiosks. MSD have around 1,500 servers. What was visible were 5 of these, and as I have said, no core systems were compromised, but I don't want to undermine that a totally unacceptable amount of personal information was available from the server that he could access. And as I say, that one server very much failed to have the protections that it should have. Mr. Speaker, as a consequence, all servers are being looked at. We are checking all of our information, and we're making sure that we know where it is and what is happening. Mr. Speaker, as I said, we will work our way through a process here. I can't change what has happened, and I can't look backwards. All I can do is assure the public that I am taking it very seriously. I am putting the checks and balances in place so that we can make sure that we have people knowing what is happening. I can give assurances that our review will be robust and it will be transparent, and that there will be a change. Mr Speaker, I want to briefly touch on a couple of things that Ms Ardern raised in hers. One was that Mr Bailey, from what the information I have, is that he contacted the Ministry on Monday the 8th, and he was answered within a day and a half. He got a phone call back. As an aside, where there's been this kind of innuendo that she gives that my staff members were looking into him, it would be quite common for someone to Google someone whose name came up, and in fact he looked at her LinkedIn file as well. So I suppose it's quite a common way of looking at each other's sort of social media. So perhaps the member could give it a go herself. Well, exactly, it's hardly the scoop of the day, is it? And quite interesting that the members over there think that it's been leaked and everything else, where in fact I think we need to concentrate on what the issues are that are most important here. And Mr Speaker, that is that people's personal information was unacceptably actually contacted. They should not have had access to that level of information, and that's the fact. I mean, Mr Speaker, I can see Leanne Dalzell yelling out over the... Well, should we talk about who should give their resignation? I mean, that member had to when she lied in unison, which is the actual reality of it. So I suppose she has personal experience of what that means to lie, but I have not. So I have been absolutely factual with this House, and that is where it sits. I can understand her anger, but she needs to calm down and have a bit of a look in the mirror. Have a bit of a look in the mirror if that's where she wants to look. Mr Speaker, as I said, I think this is unacceptable. I'm going to stand accounted for it, and I think that is reasonable. We will make sure that we are getting to the bottom of this situation and ensure that the public know about it.
Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker.
Order. I call